We had the third vice president. We had the AGS. In fact, we held a strategic committee.
Good afternoon, distinguished president and leaders of the organization, ladies and gentlemen. I've been introduced as human rights activist, attorney, and all of that. I'm very bad at protocols, so let me just apologize that I might not be able to do the regular protocols. So please pardon me. You know, the Aluta people know they do protocol. If we enter here, scatter table. So thank you so much, please. Thank you very much. Let me just go straight to the presentation. One, for the reason that I might be leaving here at exactly 5 o'clock. I have a flight to catch to Bogota, Colombia tonight. And the flight is not in Abuja, it's in Lagos. So meaning that I need to be in Lagos before 9 o'clock. It's KLM and it's 11. So I need to be in Lagos. So I'm going to do this very quickly to discuss about this very important issue. If you look at the name of the school, School of Politics, Policy and Governance. So when we got the presentation, when we got the invitation, we were very excited. We were very, very excited to be here to speak about what we believe in. Leadership, it's our forte. It's one of the things that we see as key, to, what we do at the School of Politics. Edward, if you don't mind, let me have a backup of my laptop in case this does not work here. So I'm just first going to talk about who we are and why this is important to us, as an organization. So the School of Politics, Policy and Governance came to being, if you recall, the founder of the school is Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, and sometimes ago she had ventured into the leadership train in this country to become the president. And for some reason along the line, she decided to step down and not run because she didn't want to compromise her principles, her integrity in the process of being a politician in Nigeria. And so it was after that she was invited to come and look at what did she learn during those periods when she engaged with the typical politics in Nigeria and the politicians, to see whether she can use that to develop an hypothesis that could help in terms of how do we begin to look at what form of leadership do we want, for Nigeria and for Africa as a whole. It was during that engagement, she was in Germany for like about a year or two, that she conceptualized the fact that there's a need to begin to build new leadership that are unconventional and that are also disruptive. Disruptive in the sense that would not agree to do what has been done previously, but doing things that are different. As we all know, we are in a space where there's a huge leadership crisis for Africa, for Nigeria, and for different reasons. This is something that's important for us to be able to address a lot of problems that we see, whether it is insecurity or what have you. So, as an organization, so I'm still talking about SPPG. So, the School of Politics then came for that reason, to be able to build leaders who are destructive and unconventional, that are value-driven, because we have realized that one of the reasons why we have the dearth of leadership in this country is because of the value system. What do we believe in? What do we stand for? What can we die for? So so the school is focused on ensuring that, we build on that value-driven leadership. And it has like 3 areas that we focus on. We know that for the country to move forward, there are issues of law reforms that need to take place. And we can say, from the beginning of 1999 up to today, we're still talking about constitutional reform. Currently, the National Assembly is looking at different areas, and it seems that there is no agreement on whether it is for us to have a police system, whether it should be controlled by federal or by state or by Amotekun or by OPC and all of that. We have not come to that conclusion. So those issues are still there. You know, there are issues that can define our governance structure, that can define our security as a citizen. So we felt that area of law and reform is very important. Then we also felt that there's also the area of citizens' accountability, ability for citizens to be able to rise and hold government accountable, you know, on different areas. Then most importantly, we believe that the area that is most important is the area of value leadership. Leadership that has value, leadership that can represent us well, leadership that is inclusive, leadership that shuns corruption, that is not thinking about themselves alone, that is thinking, you know, about, you know, the rest of the people. So the school is then built, you know, for that reason. So the school became 5 years this year and had been able to produce 1,000+ leaders who are disruptive, who believe, and I think I will proudly say that we have one of our students who is also a member here, and we're not intimidated to invite more people. Please, my brother, can you please rise for recognition? Thank you very much. And so we have quite a number of people, young people, you know, old people. We have a registrar of school who come into the school. It's a 10 months course, and we do about over 100, you know, courses with international experts coming in to teach in different, you know, areas. And I was just telling my colleague, I think one of the conversations we had, that's one of the curriculum actually speak to urban cities and how to develop, you know, a city. So we feel that if you're going to be a leader, you must have a very wide, you know, horizon to be able to understand almost everything. So nobody comes out of that school that cannot operate anywhere, whether it is on economy issue, whether it is on urban city issue, gender equality issue, and what have you. So that's our operation. And that's why there's a link between what we're doing and the discussion that we're having today. And I will go next to the next. Now, I want to start before I speak about what Dr. Obi defines as leadership, I want to start by defining leadership from the context of what a very great leader, Chinua Achebe, how he has described leadership, and how he was able to connect the conversation of leadership with Nigeria as a country. And he says, the trouble with Nigeria is simply and squarely a failure of leadership. And I'm sure a lot of us will agree that one of the reasons why we are where we are is also about the quality of leadership that we see and what we have normalized, you know, as the kind of leadership that we want to see. Because if we go into polls to elect any kind of leaders, that means we have normalized the kind of, you know, leadership within ourselves. So, having said that, there are research and data that's showing that there's inadequate leadership, and that has contributed to issues of non-inclusivity and a whole lot of other things that have been affecting the society. So we see a society that is not developed. We see insecurity every day, kidnapping, banditry, and you see quite a lot of things developing as a result of the kind of leadership, you know, that we are producing. And that's why I will congratulate the organizers of today by bringing up the issue of leadership, because it's important, you know, for us to look at it from that context. So Dr. Obi Ezekwesili said, leaders are those who mobilize, motivate, influence, coordinate, guide, and direct any group of people to agree their shared values, frame shared visions, identify common problems, opportunities, and aspirations, and then activate resources and effort to critical to realizing those hope. And you can see that those issues are important. And in the context of countries, one would see that leadership is at the center of mobilizing, coordinating, influencing, directing, the governance process. If you don't have good leaders, it might be very difficult, to be able to direct, the society in a manner, that the society will be able to grow and develop. There are quite a lot of issues around the science of leadership. And there are also empirical evidence which exists to prove the effect of leadership on economic growth in countries. And I'm sure if we opened conversations about which country is growing, people will talk about Singapore, they will talk about other countries like that, who were before countries that you think cannot find their feet. And even just beside us here in Ghana, few years ago, if you go to Ghana, you can get 5 million cedis. And if you change that money to Nigerian money, it could be 50,000 naira. But today, you can see some kind of transformation that has happened. And a lot of people have become friends of China, because of the kind of development and the strength that they see, in the growth of their, economy. So there are several empirical analyses now to prove that leaders can influence. And if you look at history of countries like Singapore, and other countries that we're talking about, people talk about Rwanda, to the extent that I would argue that Rwanda has an autocratic leader, but it's also still being seen as one country that is peaceful. So it depends on how people define, what development means, to them. After that years of war, the same president for a very long time, but people can say seemingly there's some developments. So leadership selection process in countries can benefit from studies which are established between the individual leadership skill and the economic process and the output that you see, from, those countries. Next. So there are about 12 critical skills for success, which people are looking at in 21st century, which people need, to be able to succeed as individuals and also as leaders. One, it's the ability for critical thinking on a lot of issues, to be able to make the right decisions. Then creativity has become one of the major things, that sells in terms of market, promotion, and a whole lot of things that can define what you lead or what you do. Collaboration is also very important. No one is an island. There is a way, and even in the academia today, you must not only publish alone. If you publish alone, you will be seen as not being inclusive enough. You are expected to publish with other people, to show that you are collaborating. Communication is also very key. There is also this whole thing which we can't run away from, which is technology, which is information literacy. How do we use it? How do we deal with it? The question of media literacy, technology literacy. And so on this side, which is more about skills, the ability to be flexible, and not to be unnecessarily rigid, especially when, things happen. And I want to say that of recent, I was just looking at Nigeria as a country, and I noticed that the current president amazes me in some ways. Look at the case of Sanda, the lady that was given pardon. She was given pardon about some few weeks ago. And there was that. People were not comfortable. They were not happy with it. But they stepped back, which is also a quality of leadership. Some people will say, I would rather not do that. I've already said it. As the president of Nigeria, I cannot go back. Yeah, we can clap for him. It's not every time. Yeah, it's not every time that we don't, we should also be able to, it's part of critical thinking to be able to also pick areas where, and I don't think that's the first time we will be doing that. Some people can see it as weakness. People like us, we say, well, why didn't you think well before you can't talk the thing? Then when you say it, then you step back. Always go back and think very well before coming to make your decision. But the ability to haven't said it and also think, okay, it looks like people are not comfortable. let me step back. Shows some form of, flexibility, which is also an attribute of. The other one is about leadership, initiative, productivity, then also social skills. They are seen as 12 skills, and they are categorized in 3 areas: learning, literacy, and also life skills. Next, please. So, as I said earlier, and it's quite interesting that I think while my brother was reading out the minutes, was speaking, I was speaking some things because I think there's a connection of those, in terms of what you did in the last meeting. And so I was trying to link it up with the conversation I'm going to have now. Because from his conversation, I think it was more about professional ethics, code of conduct, and all of that. And I had that very strong issue about character. So in his presentation, there was this whole thing about, character is very important. And I picked the presentation as someone said, character forms the foundation of ethics. So, in terms of our ability to build leadership at the SPG, we look at 3 things. The first is character, the second is competence, and the third is capacity. Now, among those 3 C's, there's one that has a big C. Normally, we put a red on it. And that is what? The character. Capacity, competence, yes. But character is the strongest factor, because character is, I'm going to be here by 10 o'clock, and I'm there by 10, So character is very important. And it's 3 true qualities and how, okay. So Brent, Kale, and Mackay wrote, what is character? It is 3 true qualities and how to develop it. That character is how your habits, motives, thoughts, and so on relates to morality, particularly as it concerns integrity. For us to be a good leader, it's important that, our character expresses that. So what is the expression of character? In his book, Return on Character, Fred Kell defined a leader of good character as someone who scores high on integrity, responsibility, compassion, and forgiveness. So it places also the issue of character around the ability to be able to show gratitude. To show gratitude is part of character. To also have forgiveness and also be grateful is also part, of character. So character is not just a context. It's about being consistent. It's about people who see you today and they know if we have business deals together, what you say is what you say. So they're not afraid to have a conversation with you. Or if we have an election here, I teach in Unilag. So normally we elect deans and all of that. So around like January and thereabouts, so people come around and start talking to you about, elections and what have you. So about 2 years ago, so someone had come to me and I said, Oga, you are the right person I am very much interested in. So somebody else came, who later won. And when the person came, I just told the person, I already gave my word to Mr. A. So don't even bother yourself to say a lot because I've already said I will vote for this person. Then later people would say, oh no, you shouldn't have been, you should just have kept quiet. I said, but why? Why should I allow him to waste his time when I know at the end of the day, I'm not going to, vote for him? So at times, some of the, in situations like that, we compromise our character and we give a lot of assumption. We say good morning and you check out there, it's good evening. And you are wondering, why did he say good morning? So character is, it emerges after a leader conquers himself or herself. So there is the internal bit of character. There is the internal and there is external. External can show how people can recognize that, you are a person of character. But internally, there's something in you that pushes out, the external. So it's from experience that help build self-regulation and discipline in a leader and forces the leader to subordinate themselves and interest to that of all others. Character safeguards the public interest against the assault of private. Character is impossible without a spirit of sacrifice, because you will lose some. When I stood for that, the other person won. The other person won. So it was possible. He didn't do that, maybe because it was an academic environment. He didn't react to me, because he then made my office like more of the office, like you have identified friends and you have identified the ones that is not ready. So if you are a good politician, you will go more for those who have won. Those who have agreed, I will vote for you. You probably will not bother yourself much about that. But you would rather bother yourself more about those who are saying, I will not vote for you. So he kept coming, to my office, and I said no. Then he won the election. So in other spaces, the person will act based on, after all, you are not in my camp. You didn't, but I didn't see that. In Akefat, when he won, I was the first person he brought in to say, let's have a conversation. What is your idea of how we should build the faculty? Which is something that, and I just learned that you just finished elections, but I don't know what has played out during that election. But I think that it's important when we have situations like that in our hand, we try to deal with it, from that. So there's also the whole thing about competence. So leadership competencies are a specific combination of knowledge, skills, and ability that represent effective leadership. So, and some of those skills are defined here as what will show that you have knowledge on issue. So we emphasize more on that. You don't want to be a president who does not know anything about your environment. I remember one of the Nigerian very prominent person, I will not mention the name, who wants to become president of Nigeria. And so we said, come to Agege now. There are people who would like to listen to you. He was asking, where is Penn Cinema in Lagos? Where is Agege? So even in terms of you want to lead, I would expect that, even if it means you put down the map of the entire Lagos and try to, find out where, what, who, try to come up with what are the characteristics of the people from this side. In Agege, what am I going to find? You look at the ethnicity and things that could help. So those ability, those skills to be able to, acquire such is the other issue that we think is important. And so that's why the school is there. The school is there to be able to build that kind of competence, for people. And so the other one is the capacity, the ability and willingness to learn, to be courageous, to tackle difficulty and questions, and question the status quo. That capacity is also important when we are in leadership. There is nowhere you are at whatever level of your leadership, even at the highest level, there will be time when someone will look up to you and just kill questions or get you to be accountable. So ability to also be able to deal with such, situation, to recognize things that needs to be done, in that regard. So that capacity is also important. Capable leaders are very result focused because they know where they are going. They are skilled in asking the right question. If I have 60 minutes, about Einstein, if I have 60 minutes to solve a problem, I will use 55 of it to ask the right question. That is the thing about, capacity. So capable leaders can connect the dots and mobilize solutions accordingly. Capable leaders can put in the work and their teams learn to do the same. Capable leaders innovate and communicate very well with the people that they're working with. They are dexterous in identifying risks and opportunity. They're constantly learning, unlearning, and then they will relearn. So capable leaders don't just see themselves as the end of knowledge, because the idea of capacity is to search, for more. Now, so in looking at all this, then we're going to looking at the question of policy, which is very important. as part of leadership. Your ability to be able to drive policy that can change, people's life. So one of the things that came here is, so what makes you a good policy maker? There are, so this came as 5 processes that you need to follow. Agenda setting, you must be able to set agenda, and these are issues that are very relevant to us as a country. I remember that years back when you tried to engage budgets, this was around 2003, and so as Civil Society, we're trying to engage the budget process to say that it should be the people's budget. So people should be consulted before budgets are made, because every year what happens with Nigeria budgets is that if you have a budget of 80 million last year, you just add more money and make it 85. Now that people's mouths became bigger, so they won't do 85, maybe they will do 160. We'll do 160. And that was the process. And so as Civil Society, then we came and said, no, the budget is for the people. So we should have, that policy formation in a way that agenda can be set, people will participate in the formulation, they will participate in adoption, they will participate in implementation, also evaluation. We still have that as a big challenge in terms of our engagement with the policy framework, in this country. The people in National Assembly feel it's just their work. They don't need to consult. I don't know whether you saw recently when they came up with a lot of punishment for defilement, which we clap for. For defilement is the rape of a child. So as lawyers, we don't call it rape, so it's defilement. So for defilement of the child, they said life imprisonment. Oh, I think they even said death penalty. So that came, maybe you saw that in the media. So they also pick other issues. For example, they picked up the issue of human aid. And you wonder, why should we have things like human aid and juju in our policy in this generation? So they talk about human aid, they talk about juju, and give some sentences to that. The only thing that I saw that, was really, apart from the issue of defilement, was the issue of suicide. Before, if you make an attempt to commit suicide, it's a criminal offense. So in the review, so they decided to turn it around to understand the issue of mental health, which is a problem, in the country. So they decided to, tune down, that, aspect of it. But they made other. So the point is that if policies are not inclusive, you are like going to make policy in a way that it will not represent the views of the people. The criminal code has been there since 1916. So for the Western world that brought the criminal code, they have reformed and changed and changed. For us, we can change now, then we change another 20 years, to come. So for the current policymakers, they were just interested in the punishment, and not looking at, so the question of policy formulation is very important when, making policy for people. Then, of course, most of our policies are not evidence-based. So there are assumptions. If, for example, that debate that took place last week in the National Assembly had gone through some processes of, evidence gathering and all of that, as good leaders, there will be, even amongst themselves, they started disagreeing. I think, for example, on the issue of abortion. So they came up to say, if you now say it's unlawful and you send anybody who purchases drug, you are likely going to start arresting doctors. You are likely going to, so they started arguing right there, and they had to step down the entire conversation. But ordinarily, those conversations should have been held before that presentation was even made. Now they had to commit it to the committee. So data is very important in having a policy that is very necessary. Evidence-based data does a lot. It improves effectiveness, it maximizes resources, it also reduces harm, and also builds trust. And so you see some form of transparency in that. So in our world in the SPG, data is the queen, and data is also the king. It's like the new oil. If you have data, you can address, a whole lot of things. And so we ask every time, do what? Show me your data. In God, we trust. All others must do what? Bring their data. Thank you very much. So, the data that has been produced are the data that we used for identifying countries that have improved, countries that have done more, that have done better. For us, at times, there are complexity around the data. I don't know whether there's the population census have not told us whether we have moved from, we used to be 80 million. Then one day, somebody woke up and said we are 120. From 120, 160. From 160, 240. Next year, 300. So data is very important. So there are issues of policy that we need to deal with, data to be able to make the right decision when making our decisions. Now, so linking this leadership with governance, which is the other issue. So this is an attempt to define what governance means, systems, structures, and processes through which organization or society are directed, controlled, and held accountable. Governance focuses on how decisions are made and all of that. Next slide. Of course, there's this thing about governance and good governance. Some people say whether it is governance, it's governance. Which one is governance, and good governance? But good governance has also been defined, in different way as whatever improves people's standard of living, of members of a society by creating and making available basic amenities of life. So meaning that good governance touches more on, communities and influence, of people, and also allows for things like participation and what have you. Next year. So good governance include responsive judicial system. I don't know what you think about the current judicial system. I think it's very efficient. Abby, I should say it again. Very efficient. And so that's part of what you want to see as pillars of governance. And so we have a challenge with that in terms of our leadership. National value, integrity system, and infrastructure. One would expect that as a Nigerian, there's this joint. Let me just go back and make just of us a little bit. So we stood early when we started, and we said, let's read the national anthem. It stopped at stanza 1. Is he deliberate because we don't know the second and the third one? Okay, I hope we won't ask all of us to stand up. You know that in some time, when you want to become commissioner, they will ask you to, recite the pledge or whatever. I am not sure. I am not sure. And I speak for myself. Whether I can do the 3 stanzas correctly, I am sure of the first one. But I'm not sure whether I can really, if they give me the microphone, to just continue without anybody, when nobody sings with you, you just sing alone, So there are characters of good governance. Participation is there. Accountability is very, very important. Rule of law is very important. Transparency and accountability is key. Responsiveness is the government responding to us. And leadership is not just about that government, also the government that we do, amongst ourselves. There are leaders here, so you are asking yourself question. Are you responsive to the people? Are you even listening? Do you pick criticism just the way Bayo Ononuga? We pick the criticism and you just see yourself on social media. I say, who are you people? What are you talking about? Instead of picking it up as, people have raised something. Let's respond to the issue that they have raised. So we're asking ourselves, what manner? Are we the Bayo Ononuga kind of leader? Equity and inclusiveness, consensus orientation. Next. So the elements of good governance, effective and efficient delivery of public service, and I think that's a major issue for us as a country. A decent and standard of living for all. Constitutionalism, rule of law, justice, electoral and participatory democracy. And I feel that this is a very strong aspect. It's because it's garbage in, garbage out. It's what you put in that you get. Whether we like it or not, if we say it's not our business. From 1999, what we see is a decline in the number of people that even come out to vote. But we are quick to say we don't like the people there. So we need to begin to look at, accountability also towards ourselves. Next. The two sides of governance, the demand side and the supply side. For us to be able to have an effective reform process, these two sides must be effective and efficient. They must be ready, to be able to ensure that the reforms are well done. So there are also other issues, other stakeholders in the conversation of governance. The state is important, the civil society, and of course, the market is also important because the market is what will create opportunities for people. So citizens are the ultimate beneficiary of governance, whether it is governance at local level in our offices or governance in our different groups, and they know when it is good. Do we know when the governance is good? Because we can taste it. Eh? We know the answer. Do we know where? I don't know. I know they. So when in doubt of whether a government has succeeded in providing good governance, who do you ask? Ask the citizens. Don't ask the government itself and say, what have you done? Ask the people, what has governance done to them? So, you need to show me the results. You need to show me the results. So, good governance is a process, but the result is the end. So, citizen-centered good governance is not an end in itself, but a necessary means to a good end. So, good governance seeks to deliver results that improve the standard of living of citizens. Next, please. So, there's this trinity of good governance that we preach. Any governance that is good must have sound policies. Policies that is people-centered, that is people-focused, that you can see, in yourself. And must also have strong institutions, very strong institutions that can withstand any threats, because there's no way that institutions will not be threatened. But it must be strong enough, not as strong as EFCC. Not as strong as ICPC. Stronger than those kind of structures. That when the threats come and you are the president and you have an interest, it says, no way, you can't go there. These are the issues. The procedures have been placed on. So we need to have that. We need to have an office of citizens for Nigeria as a country, that must be activated and leaked in our polity, that must be able to talk about political participation and vote and consider everybody saying to Amukpito, Anambra State election is the litmus test. And people are saying, but people were saying they were sharing money, but he didn't say anything. I said maybe it's too early to start looking at that. So be part of public transparency, tackling public investment, and this is the most important area. And this is what I am, before they give me the notes to wrap up, I'm wrapping up. So don't worry, I'm wrapping up. I also have a flight to catch. So the most important is that it's important for us to do what? To live the value that we demand. And I feel that that's the issue for us as Nigerians. We need to live the values that we demand, and I will stop there. Thank you very much.
A round of applause for Dr. Abiola. Thank you very much for doing justice to that topic and for not disappointing us. Leadership is about character, competence, capacity, and we must forgive. Policy must be inclusive. Data is the new oil. Transparency, accountability, and integrity is key in governance. Citizens are the ultimate beneficiary of good governance, and we must provide feedback. A round of applause again. Thank you very much, Doctor. So we're taking question and answer, and to be very smart and brief, so that we can release you to catch your flight. So before we do that, while Doctor was on, the second Vice President came in, Actor Shomawogo Bona FNIA. We welcome you, ma'am, and we recognize you. Also in our midst, I think I skipped that earlier, Actor Justice Aku FNIA, ex-official member of the Institute. You are welcome, sir. We also have former Honorary General Secretary, Architect Muradeke Okunriboye FNIA. Thank you for your support always and for being in our midst. So I'll be inviting our subcommittee chair education, Actor Steve Adamu, to take the Q&A. A round of applause for him.
So character should be consistent. Next time when one politician is coming to you during the election and eating bolly with you, and just know that that character is not consistent. So character must be consistent. So I'm going to be brief. We are going to have 30 seconds. We have 30, she has the flight to catch, so we'll be giving questions, comments, 30 seconds. So I will entertain 5 people, 30 seconds. 1, 3, okay. They said 2, 3. So Architect Muradeke first, then Architect Moses Aja second, and the third person there. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am. You know, I am wondering, what can we do now with the system we have, you know, to begin to reform, you know, the values. You had talked about, you know, that people have to have values, you know, because without those, I don't think we can get into that place of goodness. Thank you. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Okay, should I take it one by one or all of them?
You want to take everything together?
That's what I think.
Okay.
Thank you, Doctor, for that nice presentation. Mine will be to ask, with your involvement in the School of Politics, Policy, and Governance, do you have a document that assesses the performance of each leadership circle, particularly that you are involved at the national level? For us in Nigeria, maybe this leader has finished these 4 years, another 4 years is done, another leader comes in. Do you engage in such? Because such data will help us to address the leadership gap in Nigeria. Do you, please? Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Doctor, for your presentation. You've given us some kind of checklist to identify what good leadership is. And some of them have centered upon values, integrity, and character. And in the course of your presentation, you talked about things that have been normalized. And I wonder if there is any kind of yardstick that will relate to the core definition of all of these values, integrity, character, vis-a-vis what we have normalized. For instance, in your description of what character should be, you gave an example with timeliness, somebody that needs to be prompt and so on. This program was scheduled to start at 3. I think we started around 3:30 or thereabout, and it's kind of something that we've normalized. So how do we really strike the balance? Thank you.
Sorry, I just want to add one more question so that you can answer everything. So this School of Politics, policy and governance. So what qualifies you to get an admission into the school?
Thank you very much, sir, and thanks for the questions. Now, the first one that has to do with, from Madam, about the issue of values. So what do? It's actually a big issue. I know that we have the national orientation talking about effective institution. Your answer is as good as mine. Whether they can even, reorient themselves, to talk less of reorient the entire. And interestingly, the National Orientation Agency, it's all over 774 local governments. So in terms of if that institution is effective, we would have been able to do a lot in terms of rebuilding value system. But the truth of the matter is that, and because also recently there's a lot of tinkering with curriculum. I know that at times they have civic education as part of the curriculum in school. I think it has to take a bottom-up approach. In SPPG, so we have different, this is supposed to be value-based school. Recently, we're supposed to get 20 value-based women who will run for 2027. And as of today, we can only, after interviews, we have been only able to get 7. Yes, I don't know whether there are women who want to contest 2027. They're supposed to run through women, not men. I can see the man raising up. You see now. That's why we're asking for reserve seats. So, if there are women here who want to contest in 2027, please let us know. So, but there are questions that will be asked. There are interviews that will be done. But we just saw that, someone coming talking about, yes, if I invest, I expect a return on investment. You know that there is no value in that system, and feels that that return on investment is a legitimate ask, So there's a big issue about the value system. So we need to take a bottom-up approach to it. And so for us in SPG, we have the secondary school students that we work with. We work with, there was a national value debate that we do, annually, where we bring young people to express what they want to see. In different countries, people are coming up with what they can call their value. South Africa talk about Ubuntu, So there are so many values, dignity issues that people are bringing up. So we need to have a bottom-up approach. It's not something that we can just achieve because we have, and that's related to the issue of normalization of some behaviors. And we normalize and we proudly say, a meeting is supposed to start at 3. 4 o'clock is African time, so we don't see anything wrong with it. So what we have just done is to make sure that we meet up with the African time. So that's related to it. So there is a relationship between what we have normalized as people, and we didn't know the effect of that normalization until when we start seeing it in elections, we start seeing it in the kind of governance, that we have. We see it in small community, in council, and all of that. So we need to have a bottom-up approach to it. Curriculum needs to be relingual, especially if we think that this is an important aspect of our lives. And of course, even for politicians, we need to redefine. There is no way any country can move forward with what we have and we call politics in Nigeria as of today. If we don't define and determine what political class, means. Because in other countries, political class, they are the class that salvage the problem, that address the problem of the country. But the political class that we have today, I am not sure whether that's possible. So there's a need to look at the political system itself and see how we can bring in, more value, to it. Now, the second question on the issue of assessment. Currently, we do. There's something we call tracker, and I can send the link to the president so that she can share it. So we bring out this tracker on quarterly basis to look at what is happening in the country, to track whether we are getting close, what is working well, what is not working well. As a way of also learning, there are a lot of things that happen that can also benefit every one of us in terms of, lessons for the kind of Nigeria that, we want to see. So we have what is called tracker. We can share that. So, and I think between the conversation on normalization. And so for SPPG, if you want to be part of SPPG, you must first be a graduate. So it's more or less like a postgraduate certificate. It's an online, so it's not an everyday, so it's an online, and so it takes place between Tuesday and Friday, Monday, 4 days, every week. We have projects like Capstone, we have other things so people have used that Capstone to build communities, to contribute to communities. And we don't have any age limit. And so we have had commissioners, we have had Ekiti State last year, this year, 2025, sent in almost 10 people from the state government, to participate. But the whole essence of the SPPG is to begin to put the value system in people. And so it's a school that does not compromise anything. If you try to game the system, you are out. So if there's something that shows that you want to game the system or overtly shows that you are a threat, you are not, so you are out of the system. So we value the certificate of the SPPG, and I would invite anyone, I can mention names of women in high places that have been part of a registrar of schools, men that have been Major General. We had a retired Major General who just graduated, and quite a number of people. So if you want to spend your time in the evening well, please, I'm not intimidated to invite you to be part of the SPPG. Thank you very much.
Please, a very big hand of applause for Dr. Abiola Akiode. I'll invite the chairman to come for further engagement. Thank you.
A round of applause for Chair, Education Subcommittee. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Doctor. We are glad you are here. So you are sending the link to the chapter chairman, not the president. Yes, ma'am. Then on the national anthem, I think it's the national protocol that we only take one stanza when the president is not around, and the 3 stanza only when the president is around. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, Dr. Abbas, on time integrity. Okay, so between 3 and 4 is red carpet. 4 o'clock is when the meeting starts. Okay. Okay, so as our culture is, Doctor, we'd like to make this token presentation just to say thank you for coming, and we appreciate you. Thank you from the chapter. A round of applause to Dr. Abiola as she leaves. Safe travels, Dr. Johnny Messers. Okay, so thank you, Mom. The stage is set for the panel session. They have been earlier introduced. We have 3 from Abuja chapter, and we have 3 of our guests that came out, of Abuja chapter. So they will be coming up on stage, and this session will be moderated by our one and only Agatha Odige, who does it better than her. A round of applause for her. She'll be moderating that session. Architect Muiwaige, please come up stage. You have the floor. So a round of applause. Architect David Majekodumi. Their sister, Architect Enobon Kekwere. Please come up. Architect Agatha Christie Rabo, you have the floor. Architect Moses Aja. Also on the panel is Nina Nimi Briggs, immediate past chair. You have the floor, sir. And our able moderator, I hand over to you now, Architect Agatha Odige. Thank you.
Good evening, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, senior colleagues and colleagues. It's a pleasure to be here. Firstly, I want to thank the chair and the entire EXCO for this opportunity. When I got wind of the topic, I was wondering what does it have to do with us? But as always, it's something that by the end of the day, we will learn a lot and be grateful for it. So I'll dive straight to the business at hand. So we already have, the chair has introduced the panelists. One house, please. We often talk about policy gaps and leadership vacuums, but within our professional community lies a quiet power, ethics, structure, and expertise that can help redesign how our nation works. Today, we're asking not just how professionals can advise government, but how we can shape it, how our professional bodies can move from the sidelines to the center of excellence and policy direction. So my whole idea is that we'll keep the conversation light, bold, and honest, exploring how professionals can help build not just structures, but systems that endure. Please, some form of housekeeping. Earlier on, with the introductions, we forgot to read your bios. So do I go ahead or we dive straight to the business of the day? Okay. So my first question is directed at Actor Nina Briggs, Architect Ekwere, and Architect Majekodomi, based on your experiences as past chairs of your various chapters. Actor Nina, former chair of the NIA Abuja chapter, Architect Ekwere, former chair of Akwa Ibom chapter, Actor Majekodomi, the former chair of the Lagos State chapter. Ooh. I beg your pardon, sir. Please forgive me. And Architect Muyiwa Ige, the immediate former chair of the Oyo State chapter. Ooh. Former chair, sorry, yeah. It's been a while, yeah, I know. Okay, it was Actor Eno that was the immediate past chair. What unique value can professional organizations bring to national governance and policy formulation that politicians or civil servants often overlook? Can you share examples where a professional body successfully shaped public policy? I figure you'll be using from leading your chapters as examples. So I'll start with Actor Nina.
It's working. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Excellent. That's more like it. I think for me, it's a bit interesting because I happen to have the opportunity to be a member of the Abuja chapter, and in the process, I happen to be given the opportunity to chair the chapter as well. And Abuja has a very rich history of being a government city, a civil service city. Because, you know, by and large, we've got to be honest, it's the government, it's the civil service that literally built the city ground up. And the chapter in Abuja also reflected that tapestry as well. So I think coming from the private sector, I had to learn a lot because there was a richness of knowledge and understanding of how systems work, of how a city is built and how a chapter, because the chapter was started from scratch up as well. So there was quite a lot to learn within the system and from colleagues as well, many of who were in the civil service. And you see, it's quite interesting because a lot of people think that these guys don't work. They work very hard, and it's incredible the content and effort that comes from that pool of persons. But in addition, what coming from the private sector allowed me to do was that I was able to, because within the civil service, there established structures, there's an establishment in place. Invariably, that is what has kept the country running. But coming from another space, as it were, it helped me to think outside of those spaces. It helped me to think, well, sometimes tangential to those, provisions. And it now resulted in quite a lot of innovation. But that innovation was always helped and guided by the ground knowledge, the predecessors basically had. So I think what I would like to say is that from my experience, the quality of product you get is a combination of the two experiences. It's not one over the other. The quality of output you can achieve is always a combination of the two, because even with the best of intentions, there are so many things I never got to see, or I never was able to see because of my biases and my understanding, which they saw, and vice versa. So to get an excellent solution at any given point in time, it's always a harvest of an aggregation of a diversity of views. So that's pretty much one of the strongest things that jumped out for me in the was it 2 or 4 years? 4 years, yeah.
It was 4 years. Okay, thanks for that. Architect Eno, please can you share your experience?
My experience as the chair, Akwa Ibom State Chapter, where leadership is concerned. And you had also asked, the uniqueness of the professional body in developing policies. Okay? So first and foremost, I'd like to, let us agree on this, that policy is, giving guidelines to an issue that affects the societal challenges, So when we want to create these policies as leaders, do we involve the professional bodies? Do we leave it all for the civil servants, or do we we leave it just for the politicians? That's what your question is asking. And from my experience, I would say that the professional body is quite vital. The professional body is like a potpourri, In the professional body, we have people from the academia, we have people in practice, we have people in the public services, and with that, we are going to have a richer pool of information, a richer pool of ideas, a richer pool of contributions to resolve the issue of the society for which we are, working on. So the professional body becomes very vital. And where the professional body doesn't take up this responsibility is where we find the loop. And if we are not in the forefront of this thing, we tend to be trailing behind the policies. Before we know it, the policies have been done, and it is not affecting the professions rightly. And then we begin to run after it. But if we as leaders of the professional body put ourselves in front, be able to catch the policy making at the onset, be able to express what the professions desire concerning whatever societal challenges there may be that the policy tends to create, I think we would stand a better chance. Then as the leader, as the chairman in my state, we did this through a lot of advocacy, because one could wish to go through advocacy or through activism. You find that activism may not usually work well for professional bodies, so advocacy, get to be heard, get to be seen, get to express yourself, get to put yourself in that legislative space, which we lack somewhat. so that we are able to say what we want, how we want it, and we are respected, our views are respected and implemented. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Actor Ige. No, any one of you can take it.
Good evening, everyone. Now, this is quite an interesting question, and I think I'll tackle it from, not because I was chairman in Oyo State 19 years ago, 2006. But over and beyond that, about 14 years ago, I was also commissioner in state of Osun, then now Osun State. And so by virtue of that, you can now look at what was the role of the professional, how did we add value in terms of public policy, and how did it affect lives? Now, on the issue of when I was chairman, there was a preponderance of collapsed buildings at the time. And so what we did was, working with the regulatory authorities that have the laws, we decided to form what I called a volunteer corps. What that was at the time was that any architect in Oyo State can walk up to any structure that's under construction and ask, who is your architect? And at the time, we also engaged media. So we took BCOED, Broadcasting Corporation of Oyo State, along. And once they saw media, also had some police assistance. And we at least did the very best we could to enforce, to protect our own profession. Because this is the only profession we have. We must guard it jealously. A lot of quacks are out there getting all the jobs and taking empowerment away from us. And so that was successful. Now, on the platform of being a policymaker, and I appreciate my brother, Honorable Commissioner, who was here, my first action as commissioner was to issue a circular that in Osun State, no plans must be submitted without an architect seal or without it being done by an architect. And it still stands to date. Now, in the local authorities, the town planners are there, so the people that are holding court are the ones that will decide, but the circular is still there. So again, in protecting the profession, and again, unique values, leadership, policies, and good governance. All of those are they've come into play. And thirdly, as it relates to empowerment, we must collaborate. We don't know it all. We must get out there. Everybody's wondering, I trust when we go to site, they ask, have you seen the engineer? And you're talking to an architect. So we must be more visible from the state chapter level. I mean, the truth of the matter is, this is the institute. And the state chapters must be the catalysts as a growth pole for empowerment and development of the institute. So I've just given you some real life experiences. And the third one I want to add, we're all aware of SARAP, right? Have we heard of SARAP? SARAP. Yes. Well, maybe not in Abuja because APRN has taken hold here, but in other climes, the town planners have injected what they call a site analysis report and plan, which contradicts an agreement that was had on the 20th of September 2005 that sort of demonstrated the capacity of each professional. So it highlights that each professional, if you practice properly, will have a wonderful built environment. And SARAP is a dead document, and so all architects, in terms of empowerment, we've got 774 local governments in the country. We need to get out of our cocoon and educate them. And therein lies the opportunities for empowerment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Architect Ige. Architect Davy, please let's have your perspective.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Let me say, I'll just give you a little secret about me. Now, there's this what I'll put, non-interest by you and I, most especially as a professional. We let the politicians ride us. But what I can tell you today, what brought me into NIA was advising the government, getting the government to do the right thing. And the birth of the Building Control Agency in Lagos State today is actually, by the grace of God, from me. But how did we go about it? You see, you as an architect, because we talk too much, but what we need to do is action. Then ask yourself the questions. Leaders, are they born, made, or given? Whichever one. Every one of us here are leaders. Now, as a professional, you need to get yourself involved with the government, not by working directly with the government, but advising the government. You see, I'm a well-known figure in Lagos State, where the governor will send message. Architect Mike Kodime, please, can you manage your information? Say it out, and let's do the right thing. Now, you need to be involved in policy making, and I can authoritatively tell you, you can go and find out, Google it, you'll see it there. Involved in policy making, renewing the framework of urban development in Lagos, and the three main thing or main result of it is we differentiate between planning approval, planning permit, and building approval. And today, Lagos State government has LAPCA, which is the Lagos State Building Control Agency, LASPA, which is Lagos State Fiscal Planning Authority, and LASURA, which is Lagos State Urban Renewal Agency. And you can see we really differentiate the two. I mean, some of my colleagues have spoken here. You take your drawings, or you submit your drawings, you find out, is the town planner vetting your drawing? You're talking of LUNA, land use analysis, SEPA, name any kind of thing. But today, the joyful part of it is that things are being normalized in Lagos. And it's not by me alone. It's through the help of God. And speaking to my colleagues and getting them involved. Let me tell you where the secret is now. I didn't come into NIA, or I didn't pass my NIA, or I didn't have a full membership until 24 years after I married. But everyone involved with NIA, like I was saying, you know, what brought me into NIA is this getting involved in helping the government reframe the urban, policy of Lagos State. And the architect in Lagos came to meet me. Oh, you are not NIA, you are not NIA. There and there, I joined NIA. But in my 12, 13 years of NIA, I won't lie to you, that passion is there, doing the right thing. And also, the same thing applies to you as a leader. Get involved. Then also, let me also tell you as the chairman, as a past chairman in Lagos State, and I've noticed this ever since maybe 2008, there's this dichotomy between our professionals in the public service and in the private sector. We're not working together. You see, the moment you take a proposal or you want to do things that will make life better, the moment it gets to the governor or gets to the whatever, the first person the governor or who the leader will call is the architect. And this is one thing I learned. You find out that the dichotomy between us is so much, but thank God today, in the last 4 years, that dichotomy is stronger. And getting them involved, you see, one of the things that's done in Lagos State chapter, actually, though is conventional now, but it's not in the Constitution, that half of, the ESCO should be in public service, half of the ESCO can be in private service. And it's working well. Not only that, now also, you find out in the history of NIA, for over 62 or 63 years, only 2 architects in the public service has been given fellow. But today, they can boast of over 10. And you see, these are the things, because when you are giving something to someone, that human feeling is there. What can I get? Or what's the benefit? Now, the benefit we are getting from this, where we are sitting here, is hearing from every one of us, and let it sink into you, that how can I improve? How can I make my professional body be valued? Also, I'll give another example, because as far as 2008, there were only 10 fully registered architects in the entire MDAs of Lagos. But today, Lagos State government can even boast of over 60. And that is reaching out and developing leaders. Made them as leaders. Give them as leaders. Because every one of us is born as leaders, but that character needs to be developed. That initiative needs to be done. So my appeal to every one of you is not just coming, be in the ESCO, be this, be that. You need to let them know that this is why your parents, this is why your interest in this profession. And let your friend, the politicians, because I won't lie to you, because I have friends who are politicians, and I told them, sorry, you're doing the wrong thing. And let it be known. Take it to them. It takes a while. You might not get it immediately, but within a short period of time, you get it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. I know if we leave Actor David, he will complete the entire question session. So there's a common theme I've heard from your answers, that the values of participation in governance, both as professionals and as an institute, cannot be overemphasized, and that we should get out there and be involved. That involvement is key. So it goes to my next question, to Architect Moses Aja and Architect Agatha Irabo. What are the structural or cultural barriers preventing professionals from influencing governance in Nigeria? We want to get your unique perspectives. Thank you.
You want to go? Yeah, thank you very much for that question, Architect Agatha. The cultural barriers are quite endemic. When the keynote speaker was speaking, I picked out quite a number of issues. And as professionals and as architects, it is important that we first of all trim these barriers within us as professionals, in order for us to even make our mark in the public. How do we behave as architects to ourselves? To ask ourselves before we can even begin to cut out the cultural issues that are endemic within us. Now, as architects, we find ourselves in the political space, we find ourselves in government, we find ourselves in even the educational sector. How do we treat ourselves in-house as professionals? Far more than our words, to whether we are talking about policy or we are talking about governance or all of these other issues that we have been talking about. So first and foremost, my dear architects, students who are here, those in politics, in private practice, in government and all of that, try to treat yourselves well. Respect architects within your inner spaces. Very, very key. Because if you don't, whatever conversations we are having here will definitely not have any effect outside our own local communities. So this culture, the culture of respect for ourselves is important. That's number one. Then number two, our ethics as architects should not just remain within us. The ethics that we have as architects should be seen in our works outside. If, for instance, you are in your government, you are a government employee, one should be able to know that you are different. What's the culture we are talking about right now in Nigeria? We talk about, there are issues that we must talk about. We talk about kickbacks and, you know, all of that. Do you do that in your offices? Please ask yourself these questions. These are very, very key questions, because if you are, as an architect, you are in public service and you are right in the team where some of these things are going on, I tell you, there is not, you can't change anything. You cannot turn around from public practice, you know, and all of that. This character, this culture of, oh, it's a Nigerian thing, and all of that, we must jettison it. And, you know, try to have, at the fore of all our actions, we have our professional ethics right in front of us. Just to add to what the keynote person said to us, and a few other points that members of the panel have brought up. I keep saying it in many forums that I find myself in. Architects are a bit elitist, right? I'm yet to be corrected. We are so elitist that in most cases we think politics and all of this is for people who are not as, you know, who are not
Leonard, if you wish. So I give kudos to some of our professional colleagues here, Architect Ige, and my friend and classmate Seifuddin, who have been in government. I don't know how you do it. Maybe you will teach us another meeting like this on how you actually do it, because it's important that as architects we are actually involved in policy, in governance, and all of that, because you realize that some of the key things that affects us as architects, when the policies are brought into place, we are not there. Architects, and indeed, you talk about other professional bodies like maybe the MBA and all of that. Those ones have kind of found themselves in a place where they can direct certain policies. You're now going to one of my questions.
Yes, but for architects,
I mean, you shouldn't go to one of my questions.
Oh, sorry.
You're already answering one of my questions.
But for architects, what I'm saying in essence is that we should use, number one, our ethics, first as professionals and as architects, to, you know, influence the culture that seems to be a barrier in growth in terms of policy and governance. Right. And then also find a way of getting involved in politics. If you have friends who are in politics and they invite you, come in for political meetings and all of that, please go.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's important. Thank you.
And please, at this junction, I would like to plead with your indulgence. Let's make our responses very brief so that each one has something to say.
Thank you very much, the moderator. I will just marshal out a few things. The question is about structured barriers. To a very great extent, most of the barriers aren't structured at all. They are like amoebic because they just evolved through time. Let me tell you one of our greatest challenges. We got ourselves to a vantage position, and those vantage positions eventually boxed us, such that 20 years ago, you are asking an architect to come into public service, he will be looking at it. Are you sure what you are saying? You have an opportunity for an architect to be employed in the local government area. You will hardly get an architect who wants to be employed in the local government area 20, 30, 40 years ago. And so the planners took the whole stage. And when they took the place, they gradually held onto it so strongly that we are struggling to catch up and still are struggling. What else are we doing that is affecting us in having influence in policy? We tend to so possess our possession that we are unable to open up. For how many years has engineering been faculties? And architecture is just discussing faculty structure only a few years ago. And in many schools, we are still departments of architecture. We are still struggling to catch up, developing to have faculties in various schools. And so when you know that policy making is a game of number. Policy making is a game of influence. When you are talking of the Nigerian Bar Association, you are talking of 500,000 members. And then you are talking of the Nigerian Institute of Architects, you are talking of less than 10,000 members. You are talking of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, you are counting also in similar number. And then in our case, it is this different. So you will not expect magic to happen. Coincidentally also, it's important to say that in the restrictions of spaces, go to the ministries. For so many years in Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, the architect has only one department to practice. Until recently, when a few other places, maybe one or two, were created. In my own place, it is still more like one place. Because even the other two places is like a domain for engineers. But within a short space of time, how can we use what we have to get what we are looking for? We need numbers. We need diversification. We need us in places. Like my colleague mentioned, architects in politics is key to our progress. And then, of course, in public service, everywhere they may be, it will help us and help us a lot. Finally, let me mention that in trying to be able to overcome that which has challenged us over the years, we must work as people who are seeking to achieve a cause together. Divided, we will always fall, but united, we will make progress. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, for your succinct contribution, Architect Aja. So from both responses, you've given us a lot to unpack and ponder upon. So my next question goes to Architect Nina, Architect Majakodumi, and Architect Ige. Where do professional bodies tend to lose their voices in governance, and how can they regain it? Are there professional bodies that you are aware of that are able to shape national policy or discourse? I'll start with Architect David.
Thank you very much. Thank God I belong to so many worlds. When I said I belong to so many worlds, I believe you understand. Now, I've cited being a member of RIBA, cited being a member of NIA, cited being an associate member of AIA. Now, the areas where we need to come in, you look at the Nigerian Society of Engineers. Someone was talking about Nigerian Bar Association. Look at the Medical Association. Now, we need to come in and getting our people in government to kind of influence their boss to let us participate in policy making. And we have, like I mentioned, we have quite a lot to do as an architect. Now, also, let me also use Lagos State as an example. In helping them in policy making, what operates in Lagos today, because the government hasn't got enough capacity or manpower to work. And that is why you find out the town planners who are over 400% of we, the architects in the public sector, dominates the place. One of the speakers here said it. Like what operates in Lagos today is we have what we call accredited certifier. where the government does not have enough capacity. So with this accredited certifier, they are the one that will vet your drawing and then monitor the site. Architect Adebi Yemi designed this place. I, David Majakudumi, happens to be an accredited certifier to the government. It's just like an insurance broker, but you can't compare ourselves with the insurance broker. But in this note, you know, this is where the institution needs to come in. And that's why you will not see them making anybody that hasn't studied law a minister or commissioner for justice. You know, that's why you will not see them making someone who is not in the medical line as a minister or commissioner for health. So we need to get up. We need to wake up and let's get into it and do the right thing. Also, it's so sad, very, very sad, because we have a regulatory body. And some of the council members of the regulatory bodies are here. We're playing too much politics. We're not defending what we're supposed to defend. If our regulatory body is strong enough, we won't be having all these issues. And that is why you see the regulatory body. Tell me, I want to ask a question. In the last 10 years, have you seen our regulatory body bringing anybody to book for quackery? No. And that's why, you know, to the public, we're not, you know, we're not really important. So I'm seeking this forum. And for those of you who are in the Council of ACON, please, let's do what is right. Let's do the right thing. And we in the Institute too. Look, I'll give an example. River State one time were doing vetting of drawings. And that alone increased the membership of the state chapter, because they are sure that at the end of the day, a little Gary will come from this. So please, for those of us who have been there, who have that experience, and for those of you who are there trying to, it's what we give to our younger ones that will make them a good leader. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Dr. Ige, your perspective.
I like everything that I'm hearing. The truth of the matter is we must be deliberate and intentional. Otherwise, it's just Turinchi. We must be deliberate and intentional. And I go back to when I was in government as a commissioner. Maybe I was lucky because my permanent secretary was an architect. My senior special assistant was an architect. And so it was very easy for us to, again, issue a circular for us to prepare the new law, because at the time it was an obsolete law. The most important thing is, actually, my president is here, or incoming president. The Nigerian Bar Association has a platform that's a business section. Why don't we, as an institute, even from a state chapter, we can have a policy, leadership and policy desk. If we're being deliberate and intentional, we know that anything that has to do with whether policy or leadership, there's a desk. There's somebody manning that. There will be the liaison with the policymakers. And so by doing this, in being deliberate and intentional, we're there. NMA, I don't want to mention too many of them because this is not their platform, but they're out there. We've heard numbers, serious numbers. I'll use an example again. The draftsmen in Osu took, based on that circular, took the ministry to court and took Muyiwaige to court. And I'm like, you're not even anywhere. But guess what? When we went to court, maybe about 12 of us, and they will show up with about 300. And so we realized, okay, this is the way to go. Now made sure that our presentation directly from the Ministry of Justice, because they sued government and then they sued me personally. We took that one out because they said I wanted to knock them out of business. And I said, well, we'll bury you because you can't practice our craft. And finally, the judgment that we got through, the chief judge said, look, if you've not been called to bar, you can't go to the Supreme Court. You can't go to court as a lawyer. So if you're not registered, you cannot practice architecture. And so by virtue of that, they threw them out and we buried them. And I think that's happening all over in different places, in Edo, in Ogun, etc. So again, we need to be deliberate and intentional. We need to be out there. Again, if we can have a desk, a policy and leadership desk, I think it'll be very good.
Thank you very much for that, Architect Ige. Architect Nina, you're next.
I'll be very quick. I totally agree with the being deliberate and being intentional. Without pushing it too far, I'll just give a personal example. For some of you, you might remember a gentleman's name, a gentleman by the name Amos Ojo. Amos Ojo was a long-lost member of the chapter. In fact, I think he was a member of the chapter before I was even born, that far back. Now, after, somehow during my first term as chairman, we managed to sniff him out. I think the first meeting we had with him was Ehi and Akmu. We managed to sniff him out. And then he was a permanent secretary at the National Assembly. And that's, I think he was the most senior architect in that. We never, personally, I never ever knew there were architects in that building. But this gentleman was an incredible wealth of knowledge. About a few months after we finally found him, he became the clerk of the National Assembly. That was literally the one-stop filter to every single bill coming into the House or going out of the House. What did I do? I asked him to give the Institute a seat in his office, because the plan was to get, 2 people to be seated there once or twice every week, because that way they would literally have an idea of everything going in and everything that needs to come out. Why? Because through 1 or 2 instances at the National Assembly, I realized that the architects are never at the table. They're never at the table. And if you're not at the table, you are on the menu. I repeat, if you're not at the table, you are on the menu. You see, now, so this is where it starts. This is where it starts. We're trying to discuss something fairly serious, and there is 90% distraction in the hall. All right? People are thinking of food packs and all that. That, quite frankly speaking, it's here today, it's gone tomorrow. So if you're architect, I go back to that being deliberate and intentional. Those steps were taken because we needed to be inside that space and be at the table. I'm not sure what came out of it after that, because I think later on, Amos Ojo, he retired. Yes, he retired. So I'm not sure whether we're able to maintain that. But with every single opportunity we have, there's got to be deliberateness and there's got to be intentionality in everything we do in promoting the profession.
Thank you very much. We've learned so much in such a short period of time, and we're still learning. So I have this question for the next set of panelists, Architect Aja, Architect Ekwere, and Architect Irabo. Beyond communiques and conferences, Turanchi, according to, I didn't say it, Architect Ige said it. What other practical ways can professional associations influence? I'll take that again. Beyond communiques and conferences, what other political ways can professional associations influence public policy without being seen as political? So let Architect Ekwere go first.
The professional body, apart from communiques and conferences, we can influence policy in a couple of ways. I have heard people say we are not as many as the lawyers or the doctors, but I want us to know that our space of practice is quite different. So if we are making policies, we are making policies concerning our area of practice, and when we back this thing up, with research, like the keynote speaker said, with research, with data. You know, we tell them this is our field, this is what we need to be done, this is what has to be done. You know, the next thing is you assert yourself. You assert yourself that this is my profession and I have a clearer idea of what I need to do or what the policy should be. You know, we have to say it for ourselves. And then we leave it after that for lobbying. You lobby the doctors, you lobby the lawyers, you lobby the people. You know, we don't have to be as many because everybody will vote, but they will vote based on understanding. So we are yet to get to that place that we give them this understanding. You know, we are yet to get there. We are yet to get there. We are yet to pass bills. We are yet to write policy briefs to say this is the method of engaging an architect. Everybody knows, if you get to a hospital, you get your card. You check your vitals. There are those steps, those common steps. But for architecture, they call you on the phone, can you do this? And you start working, and then you finish the work, and nobody looks at you thereafter. You know, these are policy briefs we can give.
Please, one house.
We are the ones to say how things have to be done in our area of practice. We take it to the house. The rest will be lobby. We lobby every other person. And when they know that you know, they don't know what your field should do. But when you convince them, and you have to be deliberate, intentional in convincing them, you know. So that is one way, apart from communique and conferences, that is one way we can, you know, help in policy making.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, I think collaboration is also very key with this. You see, the practice of architecture seems to be, it seems to be the plate for everyone right now in the build industry. I can assure you that planners are doing plans. Even engineers are drawing some plans for clients. So first and foremost, I think it is important for us as architects to, you know, come to a common ground with other professionals in the built industry. So that when conversations like this are going on, we can streamline ourselves and say, you stay on your path, I'm on my own path. Then again, very critical, it's not about shouting. You know, when we are talking about ethics of practice goes beyond, just literally beyond what we are talking about here. We as architects, wherever we find ourselves, no matter how few we are, or, you know, if you find yourself in an office where you are just you, try and maintain some very high level of professionalism. It goes a long way. In all truth, I am talking from the background of being in practice for over 2 decades, and that has worked for me over time. You know, right now, I would say as a person, as an architect, architect Agatha Christie Rabo, anywhere I find myself, no one can actually walk over me. The things that are right will be done right wherever I am. So what am I saying? As architects, for the young ones who are here, even for the older ones, we must maintain some level of sanity around the area of our micro dealings. Very, very key. Thank you.
Yes. The beyond communiques and conferences. I like that question. Let me say that we can do a whole lot. One of the challenges we've had over the years has not been the problem of inconsistency in policies and leadership flows. When this is started here, how is it followed? How is it carried on? We had a retreat. How have we followed? How are we advancing? How are we moving from it? The Institute has been doing quite a lot, and sometimes people do not know. Seated in front of me here is the chairman of the Committee on Condition of Service for Public Service, the second vice president. And they have been working hard to see that they are able to get a better service for the institute. But people would not know. Now, the current president has entered various offices from one place to the other, seeking for opportunity for architects. Now, tell me something. Sustainability is key to advancing all of this. That didn't say the others didn't do. They also did. And then we are building on it. So let's keep on building on these efforts one after the other, because little drops of water make up the ocean. Permit me then to come to yet another point I want to put out. We are advancing the cause of our profession, but we oftentimes tend to think that our profession is limited to drawing, supervision on site. And we fail to realize that the architect is jack of all trades and master of what? Thank you. This is the real matter. When we realize that we are jack of all trades and that we are master in all these areas, then we will refuse to be limiting ourselves to just site, limiting ourselves to just drawing table, limiting ourselves to little things. These are the microcosms of what our profession intends that we should be doing. Let me tell you, the most sagacious person in society is the architect. Quote me. Yes, because it is the architect that has capacity in arts and in science fused together. True or false? That is the fact. So I want to encourage us that there is a whole lot we can do by our getting on. Let us push for bills on environmental things. And the architect should not think he should belong to NIA alone. He is competent to belong to Nigerian Society of Environment. He is competent to belong to several other groups within the system. When they bring one group or the other, especially these new things, they talk about sustainability, about green this, green that, please get involved. And for us to create and make impact, let me say to all of us that we should have knowledge and make knowledge as if it were just what we need at all times. Because when you are not informed, you are deformed. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I mean, we have so much to unpack. We still have so many questions, but for the lack of time, we just have to round up. So at this point, we'll be taking 2 questions from the audience. So I hand over to the Secretary General to pick those to ask their questions.
Sorry. Okay. Hold on. So 2 questions. This is not the audience here. So they will get their own time. So please, let's just take from the room.
Secretary, you are intimidating our leaders.
Then our leaders will now speak. They will speak. They will even spark today. So 2 questions you have. Please, you deliver your payload in 10 seconds. So, yes. We'll close. Then we'll close from there. All right. So, the gentleman here, state your name and straight to the point. I'll hold the mic. You will speak.
My name is Valentine Ukwe. My question is, as regards the last panelist who said, any of the new unions or groups that are coming up, that architects should find themselves to get into those unions. Is it possible for us to have, just the way we have in all our WhatsApp chapters, can we have a list of those particular unions or groups so that younger architects can see them and take advantage of them now that they are young and grow with them as they age? It will help in putting us in those rooms so that when we stay like 5 years, we can start having our voices there. It will help. Thank you.
We'll take the second one. There was a hand here. Okay. So please, 10 seconds, straight to the point.
All right. Good evening. My name is Akash Kuva Nwabweze.
Sorry, hold on. That gentleman didn't introduce himself.
Indeed.
No, Valentine, the one who spoke.
His name is also Valentine. I think he did. All right, like I said, my name is Akach Kuva Onwabueze. And my question goes like this. I believe there is a very big dichotomy between those in private sector and those in public sector. I will explain. Make a design here, approve it here, take it to FCDA. You will see somebody there that will tell you that, Oga, this thing will not pass through, or unless you do this or do that. That's one. Two, thank God that we have the first vice president here and the second vice president here incoming. I also believe that NIA, Nigeria needs to know who is an architect. You will see a simple advert about toothpaste. You will see endorsed by NMA. I think we can just take advantage of that. There are so many products flooding into the country that we can find a way to do, okay, endorsed by NIA. Nigerians need to know who is an architect. Go to a site today as an architect, they will call you engineer. One thing I normally do is that, don't try that thing with me.
Thank you very much.
I am an architect, don't do that. So please, let us make Nigerians know who is an architect. Thank you very much.
One question.
Well, really, I think I'll stand up for this one. I'll allow the rest of the panelists to take the questions because I need to dash out. Otherwise, I'll be here till next week. I love Abuja, but I also have to be somewhere. But I just want to thank Madam Chairman, our President-elect, members of Strategic Committee, especially this great Abuja chapter. I thought we had the numbers in Oyo. You know, when we have our chapter meetings, we'll have about 50, 60, 70, 100. But I asked the question, and Chairman said there'll be about 200 to 350. I'm like, whoa. Anyway, so please clap for yourselves. This is wonderful. I need to dash off, and I guess we've gotten some nuggets here. Deliberate and intentional, a liaison desk, and really, it's all about leadership. I want to leave you with this. Architecture, leadership is about protecting our profession. Architecture as it relates to instruction and practice, those of us in academia, we must do right. Now, in terms of responsibility, with leadership comes a lot of responsibility, and we've addressed most of it here. And then collaboration, 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 and cooperation. Inclusiveness was mentioned by our guest speaker, the keynote speaker, and again, good governance. A code of conduct is there. If you practice well, the reward is there. If you don't, the penalty is there. And then we must empower ourselves. Wherever you are, look out for the best interest of your brother or your sister. Well, there's no gender in architecture. Look out for the interest of your brother. And anyway, our profession will be great. God bless all of us. Amen. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Accept. Please don't go without taking our token from Abuja chapter.
All right. Do we pick up on the question asked relating to my presentation?
Please. Yes.
All right. The Valentine talked about the list of those groups that the younger colleagues should be encouraged to belong. I guess we will relate to the chapter leadership and cause you to have this. But at our fingertip, I would want to mention that I would suggest that we should explore to belong to Project Management Institute, PMI. We should strive to belong to Nigerian Society of Environment. Nigerian Environmental Society, sorry, is NES, Nigerian Environmental Society. I will also mention the Green Building Council of Nigeria. And then you will recall there are a number of others, especially in the academia, that we should try to please make ourselves opportunity to belong. So those are just some of the ones that we can try. But let me quickly drop something regarding the dichotomy between the private sector and the public sector. There was a discussion that was going on in a group that I belong to, my alumni group. And an architect was complaining of what happened when he was a student. How a lecturer dealt with him and blah, 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 blah. A course he passed, they did not give him, he was made to repeat and what have you. And then the head of the department said, if you passed that course, you will write a petition so that your paper will be remarked. My brother, if you do a design and you have met the requirements and you are convinced you have met the requirements, you have the right to seek redress and not allow anybody to toss around what you submit. And that is the fact. In development control, yes, there could be some questions that could be silly, but I bet you there are very sound colleagues that are there. So if you allow some of the young ones to treat you anyhow and you get over and then you come out and start whining, that is where we lose. Please, learn to stand your ground. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. At this juncture, any more responses? Okay, we're done. At this junction, I would like to extend my gratitude. Oops, I'm very sorry. Pardon me, please.
Contribution. Okay, the chair. Okay, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Initially, when the idea of me, saying one or two things was mooted, I tried to push it away, but I think I would be doing a disservice to this gathering if I didn't add one or two things. Having risen, from the grassroots as President, National Association of Architecture Students, in NIA Council for 12 years, as a commissioner for 4 years, been mentioned, and again now in the ACON Council, and coordinating one of the sensitive, committees on practice. I think, yeah, we're trying to evolve, some things now in ACON, and I think is getting to the states. That's the enforcement and, the committee. 2 people are on that seat. And I think across Nigeria now, except that maybe some states are lagging. So we're going to have a committee of about 7 now in each state. And they will be the eyes and the teeth of architecture in those states. So if your state is not doing well, blame, your people. So we're going to do that, and we're going to hold them accountable. That is on one hand. Then on the other hand, when I got appointed, by the government of Kwara State, the first thing that came to my mind was I was appointed as an architect, not necessarily because of any other considerations. And indeed, I was tested, because the first ministry I was given was environment. And that environment was, at the time, a very docile one. Nobody wanted to be there. People would just come to me and say, look, I just want to congratulate you, but we didn't find you where we wanted you to be. But, I wish somebody from Kwara is here. But at takeoff, I was the first commissioner invited by the governor, because the impact started feeling from there. And I left that ministry not because I wanted, just after 6 months, after setting some things straight. And guess where I was taken to? Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy Affairs and Community Development. You would ask, why? That ministry too was down. So before I left that place, I was coordinating the local governments, coordinating the, the traditional councils. In fact, before I left, I think I, appointed or installed over 27, right? emirs, including first class. And then the next thing was for the governor again to call me after some time and now give me an option. He said, I want to take you from that ministry to another ministry, but I'm giving you an option. Do you want to go? Very rare. Oh, he wasn't there. He would have said, look, it's on call. You can't even imagine it. For the governor to call you to say, I'm giving you an option to choose whether you want me to take you from that ministry to the other. I said, Your Excellency, you appointed me here. Take me to whatever ministry you want to. He will look at it, he'd say, but I'm happy with what you are doing here. So we did that back and forth about 3 times. He will keep saying, but I like what you are doing here. Eventually, I said, Your Excellency, there's nothing I can say. If you say you like what I'm doing here and you are thinking of me going somewhere, please let me be doing what you want me to do. But as I wanted to go out, he opened the door for me. I now held it back at the door and said, Your Excellency, next time you want to take me, please. This was a bit difficult for me today. Please don't involve me anymore. So in about, I think, 6 months, he actually moved me from that ministry to the next ministry, and that's the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. As an architect, you see, that ministry was a ministry that was neither here nor there. And at the time, it was scrapped. Imagine scrapping the Ministry of Housing in a whole state, because there was nothing happening. So he wanted me again to, bring up that ministry. In fact, my driver was crying. He said we were in the Ministry of Environment where we started enjoying. They took us away. They brought us to look at where we started enjoying. He said the man is just using you as a bulldozer. I said, well, no problem. Today, I'll give you a reference. Ask from I think it's the General Manager Procurement. That ministry today, I left it as a procuring department. Look, each time there was presentation of budget, either at the Ministry of Finance or at the House of Assembly, my ministry was a delight to watch. In fact, one of the House members has said, you want to take over all over everything. That is what you should do as an architect. You make impact. You bite. You go to people's ministries and take their jobs. If he's strong enough to fight you, you say, okay, sorry, I didn't know you were. Go to another one again. Today, the Ministry of Housing is building houses all across in Kwara State. Please go and find out. And when I was leaving, because of our zoning system, he couldn't do any other but to bring another architect again to replace me, because he feel, look, it's only architects that can do this. Thank you very much.
Good evening, distinguished colleagues. Good evening, distinguished colleagues. Thank you, darling. Thank you. So I thank all our panelists. And you guys delivered brilliantly. But I want to speak to us as a director coming from the public sector. To the glory of God, I'm the director overseeing the Federal Public Asset Maintenance of the Federation. And I want to tell us this dichotomy, and we're talking about between the public and the private sector. It's something I will consider that belongs to the past. I will tell you why. And when we are talking about policy, what is policy as in government? When you have any new government, what I mean by new government, you know that any new regime, we have the Tinubu regime, has at least 8 pillars of reforms he wants to undertake under his renewed hope agenda. We know that, right? Good. Food security, infrastructure, housing, and all of that. So I will speak from the housing aspect. In my ministry, the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, we are undergoing the Renewed Hope Estates and Renewed Hope Cities. Now, how do we close the gap between us and the people in the private sector? And let me tell us, there's no policy that can ever go on without stakeholder engagement. We have to call the relevant professionals. We have this engagement with you. Your ideas are brought on board before we derive these policies and for their implementation. I will give you examples. When we started, before we even started the Renewed Hope Cities and Estates, the ministry thought it wise to have an engagement, stakeholder engagement with people in the built environment. I hope there's no non-architect here, Abby. All of us are architects all here, so let me feel free. Off record, Chatham House rule, please. So I can assure us of what we are doing. So we have the stakeholder engagement, and we, the architects there, we were very intentional, we were very deliberate about what we want to do. So we have 4 task teams of various strata, you know, for material hub, intergovernmental. So Architect Mo, your attention please, say for this. Architect Mo was one of the people in the tax teams from the private sector, right, Architect Mo? Was it a success or was it not a success? So we had a lot of people from the private sector. It was after that engagement, we came up with policies that are driving this Renewed Hope Cities and estates. That's going back to some of the questions you answered about after conferences, what do we do with the communique? We drive it through to implementation stage. Now, that is about our housing projects. Coming back to what my dear brother, architect Moses Aja talked about, you know, there's so many things we are doing that we can't even come public with. We have had, in this regime, we've had a lot of stakeholder engagements with people in politics, people everywhere, all strata, just to position ourselves. And I will tell you, they're yielding fruits. Before I came, just about 2-3 weeks ago, the committee Architect Aja referred to, we are driving that architects be employed in the public sector at a level that will be at par with the medical doctors. It's a difficult one. We have done that presentation in 2023 at the National Council on Establishment. I submitted again in my ministry. I lobby a lot, and PR is in me, so I lobby well, and I'm getting what I want. So we are representing again. That is for our people in the public sector. What are we doing for our people in the private sector? One of the memos that will be presented at this National Council on Establishment also is for the Office of the Architect General of the Federation. These are the things we are doing. When we want Architect General of the Federation, definitely it's not coming from people in the public sector. It will come from one of you here, from the private sector. And part of in fact, all of the policies that have come out, there is none that did not have the stakeholder engagement. Is it the building code? Before the building code came out, there were lots of engagements. Even then, I was a level 9 officer under Aliu, and they brought it even to zonal stages. So the one that was in the South, held in Port Harcourt, the Presidential Hotel, I was one of the people that reviewed it. And go back to the building code. I was speaking with Architect Ehi. A lot of things Architect Ehi said, Architect Eno mentioned it, and some of you mentioned it. So I was beginning to look at him. Are you prophetic, or you are having a kind of therapeutic discussion with them? Because these are key. So the building code, we realize how very important the architect is. I'm probably an architect, a wife of an architect, a mother of an architect. So I pride it anywhere I go. So when we were doing all of that, go back and study that building code. All of the compliance forms there. Let me even help you. Go to the building code, the back of it. You have all the compliance forms from the substructure, superstructure, finishing, landscape, and all of that. Go and get me anyone that the architect will not sign. It was deliberate. So the architect, our importance cannot be overemphasized. That is another policy that has been driven through. And luckily, recently, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development has formed a committee. You know, it's part of what was recommended in the building code. So that committee will drive it through. And who are the people there? Mainly our people from the private sector, collaborating with the ministry. Then, even the ministry, as my ministry, the Housing and Urban Development, we have a council that is called the National Council on Lands and Urban Development. So it holds every, towards the end of the year. And I will tell you, ever since I came on transfer to the headquarters, I've made sure that NIA is always represented, not just represented, we present papers. And these papers we present are eventually what will be translated into policies that drive the built environment. So there's so many of them that we have done. And you see, well, there's so many things that we are doing. And because of how confidential they are, we can't come public with all of them. Yeah. Is it the public Bureau of Public Procurement stuff that Chris Uloko, the national publicity person, posted today? We have been lobbying because we feel that there's no way you can procure anything that has to do with the civil works, that have to do with the housing, without the architect in the council. You won't even believe how far we've gone with the lobbying. So we will continue. So we are doing a lot. All of those courtesy calls you see, we're not just going to have a handshake with them. They will yield fruit. And we in the public sector, we can't leave you behind. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Ma, for outlining hope that we have in future. And thank you to our esteemed panelists for bringing your wealth of experience. This conversation is not over. When we go back, we need to implement all we've learned. If there's nothing we've learned today, one thing is show up, be available, and take space wherever you belong. Thank you very much.
Group photograph. Thank you very much. So Architect David, please, can you just wait behind? Yeah, just wait, please.
From NIA Abuja chapter to you, Architect Eno, thank you for coming. We appreciate you. And Architect David Majekodumi, thank you so very much for being on the panel today. We appreciate you. Thank you for coming all the way. Oh, okay. One house, please. So it's time for the incoming president to round up this session as we round up the meeting. But while we were at it, Actor Celestine Eze, FNIA, came into the hall. Actor Eze, you are welcome. I also want to recognize Actor Taiwo Yelade, FNIA. I think I skipped you during the introduction. Thank you for coming. Actor Sonny Salawa, you have the floor, sir, to round up the panel session. Thank you. A round of applause for the incoming president as he rounds up.
Okay, can we settle down, please? Second Vice President, Architect David Majekodumi, Architect Agatha Christie, Architect Eno, Architect Justice, Architect Mo. Please, can we settle down? Dr. Muazu, can we settle down, please? Architect NIA ABUJA, our chair, fan. Yes, can we settle down? Honorable Treasurer, can we settle down, please? Students over there, can I have your attention? I'm not starting another lectures altogether because a lot has been downloaded this evening, if I am permitted to use this language to describe all that has been done today, from the lectures that we have received from Dr. Abiola to the intelligent session that we've had from our distinguished members. So I believe we have taken a lot home. But I have a way of breaking down things in simple terms. This lecture couldn't have come at a better time when we are almost at the last lap of our transition. We are going to have new set of officials that will run the affairs of our institute. And so Abuja chapter, I congratulate you and I thank you for organizing and making this month's CPD in tune with what is on ground. Now, leadership, policy, and governance. For architects, we are all ab initio from our training in school, trained to become leaders in what we do. Yes. All that we do, you know, we do our designs from either part to whole or whole to part. What do I mean by that? We are also urban designers. So when we consider the urban environment, we are designing from whole to part, part being the individual household unit. And when you think about all the ingredients that we need when we are designing, for example, part to whole, a single housing dwelling unit, from that moment on, we are carrying along the inputs that we are expected to get from our co-consultants. And that is leadership in itself. Because all these people that are coming to make an input in our designs, they are subject to what we want, because we are the only ones that have the full picture, the full concept of what is going on. So from our training in school, basic training, we are trained to become leaders. And then what is policy? As it relates to what we are doing as architects. Now, I would want to approach policy from the simple point of view of, say, the brief, client's brief. Because what is the client's brief? The client's brief is that document that identifies a problem and profiles the solutions. So that is the policy. When you talk about governance, now moving forward, translating what we do from designs, from the brief to the designs, now to the implementation of both as a physical project. That is governance. All the procurement systems, the construction levels, all the project management that we do is governance. So as architects, you can see that we are properly positioned to provide the desired leadership, to formulate the desired policies that are intended to improve the lives and properties as well as the environment. Now, if you put all this together, then we have the professional body, because all of us here are all members of the Nigeria Institute of Architects, which is the umbrella body that brings all the professionals together. Now, I'm particularly delighted at this month's CPD program, where a physical demonstration of synergy has been exhibited by the presence of our former chair Lagos, former chair Oshun, former chair Akwa Ibom. You can see the synergy is already taking place. We are synergizing from the grassroots, where we have all the chapters. We were in Kaduna last week, and you were there. We had a lot of other chapter chairs that were actively present at the Kaduna Architects Forum. And I would want to say that the Institute is as strong as its chapters are. And the chapters are indeed very strong, just like we have received from the testimony of Architect Muyiwa Ige here. Kudos to Abuja chapter. The sky is your limit. So, okay, the sky will not be your limit. Okay, thank you very much. So, at the national level, of course, we are not, well, a lot wants to hear the visions that I have when I assume office of the president. Perhaps there will be a better forum where I will unveil that. But I belong to this chapter. This is my home chapter. You deserve to have a taste of the food before the rest of the members have a taste of it. Well, I will tell you that this is the way I intend to approach the business as the president of the Nigerian Institute of Architects. We will collectively sit down, identify the problems. I already have a team that is working to at least produce a working document such that we will hit the ground running. But it will have the input and buy-in of all the members of the Nigerian Institute of Architects, and it will be our document that we will all work towards implementing, and by the grace of God, they are all tailored towards ensuring the continuous existence, the sustainability of the Institute on a better trajectory. And I would want to assure you that relying on the tradition that we have that ensures that a line of succession is established, I assure you that we are going to strengthen on that in such a way that whatever policies we agree to put together, we would ensure that they are going to be sustained beyond the shortest 2-year period that we are going to have. So I don't want to bore you. We've sat down for quite a long time. We've listened to all the lectures. Trust Abuja chapter. If it is not physical, I'm sure they will bring it up online, and we will continue this course in the nearest future. So thank you very much. God bless you all for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, incoming president. That is really very encouraging, and we are very expectant. What a way to wrap up the panel session, leadership, policy, and governance. We are rounding up. We are rounding up soon. Okay, so on the agenda, as we round up, we have some of our members that will be vying for position at the BGM in November, and we deem it fit to introduce them to the House so that you can know them. You are not hearing it on here. You are hearing it from here in Abuja chapter. They've been sponsored by the chapter to run, and thank you. So we'll be calling them out. It's not campaign yet. Just to introduce yourself to your members and have their blessing and their support. So we have architect Moses Aja, FNIA. Aja, please come up and let your members behold you. Architect Akitunde Akanwo is also on that list, sponsored by the NIA Abuja chapter. Architect Nina Nimi Briggs, immediate past chair. And Architect Agatha Christie Rabel, the female in the group. You have the floor.
Yeah, good evening, distinguished colleagues. I am Akindele Akanwo, and I'm offering myself to be of service to you for the next 2 years in the capacity of the Chair Practice Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. This is by no chance we are not just like the chapter chair has said. It isn't campaign. We are just talking to our brothers within our in-house. So on this note, I am Agatha Christie Rabo, and I'm putting out myself to serve the institute, if all works well, as the public relations officer of the Nigerian Institute of Architects.
So my incoming president, okay, I should hold on. So my incoming president, my incoming first vice, my incoming first vice, my incoming first vice. I'm not bribing you. Good evening, everyone. My name is No, there are some people who are talking whose attention I'm trying to grab. So good evening, everyone. My name is Nina Nimi Briggs. I am very grateful to be a member of the Abuja chapter. I appreciate the opportunity to be a chapter member. And I think it's safe to say that I have, by God's grace, I've been able to re-engineer the chapter. And the chapter chair approved my nomination form because she can disapprove it. And it was submitted for the role of the HGS of the Institute.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can go back to your seat. Thank you. Round of applause for them. We also have in our midst some of our invited guests that will be running at the BGM. And because they are in the house, it's only proper to also introduce them to the house because we are, at the end of the day, part of the general body. So we have Actor David Majekodumi, FNIA. You may rise up for recognition. Architect Justice Aku, FNIA, former Vice Chair, NIA Abuja chapter. Please rise up for recognition. Architect Enobong Ekwere, FNIA, Doctor, all the way from Akwa Ibom chapter. Media past chair, first female chair, Akwa Ibom State chapter. Okay, thank you. So is the BGM from Monday 24th to Saturday 29th of November here in Abuja. A round of applause. The Abuja chapter is the host chapter. Abuja doesn't carry last, okay? Please, let's be on ground to welcome all our members. They'll be coming from all the states into Abuja. Registration, we understand, has been very high. A lot of members have registered to be physically present in Abuja. And we'll also be hosting the Homosexuality Night as a local organizing committee. Some of us must have seen our letters. If you have not seen it, our letter is coming for support. And some have supported us already. We appreciate a round of applause for everyone that has responded. Venue is at the National Secretariat in Katampe. It promises to be fun. It's not a night for anyone to miss. That's on Tuesday, 25th of November. We'll be welcoming every architect into Abuja. And that will be proudly sponsored and hosted by the NIA Abuja chapter. Please, let's be there and make all architects welcome. Also, our end-of-year party will be coming up Friday, 13th of December. It's going to be an all-white end-of-the-year party. And the social secretary, Architect Amaka, can't wait to spoil us like she did at the gala night of the AGM. A round of applause for her. It's not a party for anyone to miss. Okay, so we'll be rounding up. The meeting is coming to a close. The chapter vice chair will be giving us vote of thanks, thanking everybody for staying up to this time and for making out time to be part of the meeting. We'll take a group photograph, and afterwards we adjourn. Motion for adjournment? Yes. Oh, you moved the motion for starting this meeting. I'm not sure. Can someone? Thank you.
My name is Architect Taiwo Olumuyiwa. Having had very interesting, fruitful session, I hereby move for the adjournment of this meeting.
Thank you very much, Architect Taiwo. Who is seconding that motion? John. John.
You're back to the chapter. Welcome back.
My name is Architect Aonduve Lawrence Utsaha. I move to second the motion for the adjournment of this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Architect Lawrence. He was one of the facilitators at the NIA PPC April Diet, where we had a seminar for the candidates. And during that meeting, gathering, he actually said he was running, he's a politician, and he wants to run for the governorship of Benue State. And he so advocated that architects should be politicians. So we said, okay, fine. It's an election year. Let's get someone from the School of Politics, Policy and Governance to come talk to us. He actually facilitated this meeting of today, and he brought Dr. Biola. We appreciate you, sir. Thank you. So I'll be inviting the Vice Chair for the vote of thanks, Dr. Eya Seyin. Please come up, and after that we have a group photograph. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate you. Thank you. God bless you.
My people, good evening. I'd like to thank you all for attending this evening. If you were not here, it would be a flop. So I wish you well, and I wish you a nice evening to rest. Thank you all.
Okay, quickly, please, can we just come to the front so we can have a group photograph? The next time we'll be taking a photograph like this, we'll all be wearing white. White. We'll be celebrating our end of year, so please, can we all come to the front? Seated, please. Incoming, please. Just, please. No, sir. Yeah, here. Where is James? Everybody, students, our students, please come. The next generation of architects, please, Ami Joseph and co, please come behind. I want you guys behind here. Just arrange a line, a complete line.